I want to welcome you to the Engineer Your Success podcast. My name is Dr. James Bryan. I'm your host for the show. And we're excited today to have Mr. Johnathan Meade here as our guest. Jonathan, will you tell our podcast listening audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely, James. Thanks for having me. I'm equally as excited to be here and share my story with your listeners. So I'm the CEO of Meade Engineering. We're a design engineering company that provides engineering design services for the commercial construction industry. We also provide commissioning services as well. We're about 35 years old. We're based out of Phoenix, Arizona, and currently have team members in 9 different states across the country.
So tell us a little bit more about your background. When did you get started into the family business, so to speak?
Yeah. So it dates all the way back to when I was in high school. This was my very first job being in the family business as an electrical drafter. And I joined up, obviously not having any background in this, was thrown in to basically be a part of the production of electrical construction and learning Autodesk, learning AutoCAD, working on a variety of project types, commercial offices, industrial, etc. And I worked on that or that first stint I did at Meade Engineering, as I call it, took me all the way through college. And until a year after college, in fact. And about the time I graduated, a lot of my focus was in the data center space, although still kind of had some breadth around various commercial construction project types. But data center was really the primary focus. And for those that know me, know that I've been working in engineering, but I am not an engineer by academia. Yeah. I literally chose to have the path of, do I go to engineering school or do I go to business school? And I chose business. And I'm happy with that choice. Genuinely, it set me up well for the position that I'm in today and gave me a different perspective on what I sometimes say. There's a difference. There's the engineering business and then there's the business of engineering, right? And they're two very different things. And if you can bring those two together in a way that respects the discipline in the way that it deserves, but also putting together the structure of a properly run organization together, I mean, the possibilities just really start to open up. And so after I graduated and had gone through that business school experience, it took about a year for me to really start to think through, like, okay, what's going to be next for me? Am I going to continue down this family path? Is this going to be my career and experience in life forever? And I'm going to be honest, like at that time frame, at that young age, I'm like, I think I need to branch out. I think I need to do a little like something else, take a breather, because we may talk about this more too, but how the the people in this business and the overworking that can happen and stresses that can come with these types of roles, like I'm highly in tune with and pay really close attention to, like to my team, especially now. I think I felt some of that, to be honest. And so, having studied economics, it was a natural transition for me to go get a finance job. I put that in air quotes for those that are listening. And I genuinely didn't exactly know what a finance job was. Now I know that there's a vast array of different career paths that you could take within that area. And so I ended up at Charles Schwab. I took a entry level call center rep position. I mean, literally like untrained, put me into the front lines of the customer service portal for this massive multi-billion dollar conglomerate company. And it was humbling, taught me a lot, just how to be a professional working at Charles Schwab. Obviously, I didn't stay in that position the entire time. I was there for about a year, ended up getting all of my investment licenses, went and got my MBA, went and concentrated that in finance. And all the while I'm working through all of this and kind of gradually getting promoted, right, into different areas of the business. I generally didn't think I was going to be at Charles Schwab for more than like a couple of years. That was it. And I was like, I was going to go be an entrepreneur. I was going to go do something else. But it's a really great company and they were really good about giving me new opportunities to grow. And yeah, yeah.
So you started in the call center. Like literally, I just want to make sure that people can catch this. He started in the call center. You didn't think that that job was beneath you. I mean, you grew up in the family business, right? So, your dad's running the company. You're used to, I guess, a certain quality of job or a certain gravitas when it comes to the job. So, what made you say, I'll take the call center position?
I just wanted to learn. I knew that I wasn't going to go get some big time job just coming out of school. It really was about me putting myself in a position where I knew very little and being comfortable with that and confident that I was going to learn it. And then through my knowledge and through my drive, that good things will come. Right. I've never really been like a cheaply financially motivated. Like that's just thing. Financial gain is a result of a series of great decisions that you make, right? Where everything comes together, like you're doing right by your customers, you're doing right by the people that you work around, you're doing right by your family. And ultimately, I mean, you have to cross the street. Don't get me wrong. You have to be willing to take some risk, but like the money will come. Like if you keep pushing in that direction. And I think for me, it wasn't about that, right? It was, I'll be straight up, probably was the lowest, if not very close to one of the lowest paying positions in the entire company. And I kind of knew that at the time. But again, I didn't care because I wanted to immerse myself into a place where I was going to get inundated with new information and new knowledge to take me to the next level as a stepping stone. I knew I wasn't going to be a call center rep forever.
But Jonathan, that takes a tremendous amount of courage and I believe some humility to say that this is what I'm going to choose to take one of the lowest paying jobs in the organization. And I'm going to bet on myself and my ability to learn and grow and to get promoted while I'm there.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's kind of what happened. I guess humble brag. I ended up after that first year, I zoned in so much on being the best at that job. I wound up for a period of time as like number one ranked in the across the whole company for converting like leads that they had like on our metrics. Like I was like, okay, I can do this, right? Right. And that moves me on to the next thing. Right. Yeah. And then now they're like, we want you in front of people. Right. You'd be a great fit to be inside one of our branches, helping people put together financial plans. And then I did that and that's when I was in grad school. So I'll admit though, that time period, and I think people should really know this too. It's like leading up to that point, and then you double on like a graduate program with a full-time job. And I had a 2 hour commute, like 1 hour there, 1 hour back, for like 2 years straight. So that I not recommended. And that kind of puts some great, I guess, in my personality.
But you were willing to make the investment for what you wanted. And I think you can correct me if I'm wrong. You weren't looking at this as this is going to be a permanent thing where I'm going to be grinding like this for the rest of my life. But here's an area where I want to grow. This is the investment that you see is required to actually achieve that. And you were willing to make that investment.
Yeah, absolutely. And to not, I'm super futuristic when it comes to the way that I think, right? All the jobs that I wound up having at Schwab, right, when we really dissect this, like going in person, I'm like, this is kind of a nice break. I'm still sort of vetting out whether or not I want to be a full-fledged financial advisor for the rest of my career. I'm in school. This is a good fit, right? Then I get a corporate finance job and I moved to San Francisco. Like I was planning for that. I'm going, okay, I still kind of want to be an entrepreneur. So I really need to get some corporate FP&A experience, deep dive like P&L, balance sheet, cash flow. And I was able, fortunately, to have some people at the company that believed that I could add value to that side of the business. And so all the meanwhile, I'm just kind of building blocks, right? Okay, I got some really strong customer service. That still serves me today, right? I could talk on the phone like no one's business. Ask my friend with bank. I got some pretty good sales experience, right? Like I know how to help people and convert that into real business. Okay, now I got some real corporate finance experience. That's the mothership of that's the buck stops with finance, right? When you're coming to make decisions for the company. And then after about 2 years of that, I think I had enough like 2 years in FP&A to like, just like long term, I just didn't see it. And I'm like, I got exposed to strategy. I got exposed to like client experience and things like that. A much more gray, less black and white way of thinking, a lot more cross functional. And then remember, I just come out of the MBA. So now I had all of that. I had this corporate finance experience. And then now I'm sitting in the same building and essentially the same floor or two of the teams that are running strategy for all of Charles Schwab. So like, like that seems pretty interesting. That seems even closer to kind of being in the command center, right? For an organization. So I pursued it, but also there was some interest for me to join this strategy group that focused on the retail business for Charles Schwab. Their whole mindset was, how do we optimize and grow it? And I stayed with that team for the rest of my Schwab career. We got moved like to various different projects and functions and tasks, but the core team kind of stayed intact. And that was a fun experience that I had that really set me up, because now I was the one who was having to present to these executive team members, right? I'm the one who has to think across all the key business functions like marketing and sales and finance and like so operations and legal and risk and so on and so forth. And you do that long enough and you get that experience of lead cross functionally, it kind of feels like you're running your own organization, right? Even though, I quote unquote wasn't, right? So that was kind of where that all led. And then of course the transition back to managing.
Well, that's what I was going to get to. It sounds like you had a really successful experience with Schwab, but then you went back to Meade Engineering. So, what was going on? What drew you back to the family business?
Yeah, it's a multitude of factors. And to be fair, it wasn't an easy decision. It wasn't an easy because I was pretty happy with my career.
You sound like you were.
Yeah, yeah. It was a good place to be. I really enjoyed the people that I was working with. I had wonderful work-life balance, right? There was something missing though. And I think I love, maybe it's an obsession. I love being accountable. Like I love responsibility and I love being, I don't know, maybe I work good under pressure. Maybe I just feel like that's my place. But in a big, big corporation like that, your accountability for things can kind of be misled or almost feel like false. Like, am I really accountable? Or for what I am accountable for, it's like very, very small, right? It's this one little thing. And I wanted more, right? I wanted like I think I joked with my bosses at some point. I'd be like, I would like to be in that position where somebody's calling me on a Saturday saying, this isn't done and this is a huge problem. I know that sounds really crazy. Maybe it's to make me feel like I know I'm doing something really meaningful, right? I know I'm doing something that's important. And I think that piece was missing a little bit from what I was working on. Didn't unmotivate me, but I'm like, okay, I'm ready for the next stage of responsibility. So there was that in the back of my head going, still have that itch. And then my dad, right? Big piece of all of this story has been running this company for a long time. And he's reaching this stage of his life where he's asking himself, what's next? Right? He's been doing this a long time and he wants to figure out what that next transition is. And him and I had been in close communication even since I had left. Right. And we would even still talk about the business on a regular basis. But so 2020 happened. That was a blow to a lot. And it wasn't like a blow to the business. It was more, I think, a blow to the motivation. Like if the wind already isn't super strong in the sales, and then it's like, I got to deal with this now. And in our business, you're supporting like the data center design space. It's when he did nothing but pour gasoline on a burning fire, right? When it came to technology adoption and the need for additional infrastructure to support all that we're doing today. And so we're talking through this 2020, 2021. Okay, what are the options? Possibly sell the business, possibly close the business. Option number 3, I guess, find a new leader, right? And that's when I actually, for the record, I'm the one who approached my dad about it. Yeah. And that's because, again, I had made the decision that I wanted it, right? That I was ready for it. I'm going to take a lot of conversations internally and externally with family and friends going, is this the right thing? And it just felt right. It felt right. So we talked it over. I laid out a whole plan. Said, this is things that I think we need to do, right? Make sure we keep this team together. Make sure we keep our customers happy. Let's look to the future and position this company in a place that we know they have long-term sustained success. And that was in August of 2022, right? When I officially stepped foot back in the offices of Meade Engineering and took charge.
Also, how have things been since, then? I hear there's a lot of exponential growth going on, a lot of different things that are happening.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you a metric, I guess. When I walked in, some numbers. When I walked in, mm, I had 13. I had 13 employees here when I started in August of 2022, and now I have 65. It was necessary. Our customers were demanding more from us. We really needed to build in more redundancy and needed to bring in the additional talent to offload responsibilities from my dad as an engineer of record. We needed to build out new service lines. Like there was a lot of strategic moves that were just happening, right, to help diversify and again set up the company for long-term success.
It and these are all things that were included in the plan that you laid out when you approached your dad about taking over the company?
But that's a great question. Yeah, trust me, I had it all dialed. I knew exactly what was gonna happen.
No, well, not from the standpoint of the timing, but just the general strategic focus of growth, because it sounds like you said growing your business lines, you were primarily focused in one area and you started doing a little bit more diversification?
Yeah, no, I think yeah, thank you for clarifying because at the core, yes, like what we wanted to do, right? And where we wanted to go has not really changed. The timing of it has definitely changed, right? That how we're gonna do it I think has definitely shifted on a multitude. But at that, like to your point, at the basis of it, at the very core of our vision and strategy of where we want the company to go, diversification, of course, that's not going to change, right? Delivering the highest quality service that we can provide, that's not going to change, right? People, that's not going to change, right? So there's like a lot of those things as a part of that plan that haven't deviated. Like the how and the when. Oh yeah.
Everything's subject to market conditions, right? What's you start finding yourself in these situations, you adapt. Good companies know how to adapt and to maintain their same company culture, or to look at ways that if the culture needs to adapt, it will adapt, but it doesn't change from that core.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think too, one thing that I've got started to get a lot better at that I don't think I was very good at in the beginning was predictability.
Okay.
Now, there's no crystal ball, obviously, but I think I'm more willing to make certain investments earlier than I would have to 2 years ago, right? I think I was gun shy on certain things. Looking back, I'm like, if I would have just done that 6 months earlier or a year earlier, I wouldn't feel the pain I'm feeling now, right?
Mhm.
Having now a big body of work or a big thing kind of fall on my plate and now have to push all priorities aside and focus on this, which I think
Yeah.
is one of the biggest challenges and one of the worst things a CEO can do or let happen is let something kind of like at the very beginning of our conversation totally rock your boat,
Yeah.
right? You or your company. So it's like, what can you do to prepare for that tidal wave or that big wave coming and crashing against your boat? And you actually saw it because you were looking, right? Through your binoculars up at the tower. And you're like, hey, let's steer 12 degrees to the left. So this doesn't hit us on our broadside and we plow right into it and crest over. So it's stuff like that that I'm constantly kind of trying to pull myself up to that tower and think through and go, I see that turn ahead or I see that thing ahead. I'm going to make the right decisions or investments or changes now so that when it gets here, it's not a big.
Yeah, and so as you're talking about that, what comes to mind for me is strategic foresight. Is just being able to strategically look at the situation, look at the landscape that where you're coming in, identify some of the challenges for those waves, like you said, that may be coming, and then providing guidance to steer the ship in a way that those waves don't take you kind of full on.
Yeah, absolutely, because they can. And the larger the organization gets, the bigger that ship is becoming, right? And then the wave, so the smaller waves don't mess you up as much anymore. Which, but when a wave does come, it's going to be huge or a lot bigger. And you don't want it to be catastrophic, right? And so yeah, it's just like that. I love those words, that phrasing that you use, strategic foresight is exactly what I'm continuing to work on and also coaching my team to also be thinking that way for their organizations and their disciplines to go, hey, look to the future. I know we have problems to solve right now, but plan for where you want to be in 6, 12 months and know all those steps in between that are going to get you there.
No, that's absolutely very wise in terms of looking at how to equip your team to manage those challenges. If you don't equip them, then they're not going to have the ability to equip their people. So, you have to be equipped, you equip them, they equip their people, and the company continues to grow and become very resilient because everybody has an eye to the future, not to the extent that it doesn't allow you to be present for what's happening, but you're at least making contingency plans or thinking about what those plans may be if X, Y, or Z comes up.
Oh, absolutely. Right. And I could even give you an example if you'd like. Oh, yeah. Because this one really, really sticks with me is so when I first came to the company, one of the very, very priority initiatives that I had was transition the company to the cloud. Right. I said I knew that we were going to need to grow and scale, and we weren't going to be able to scale with like an on-premise type technology setup, and company wasn't operating on 365 and all these different things. So I chose SharePoint naturally, right, as the place that we were going to migrate our, come to find, million plus files to. Yeah, you could already see the storm brewing on the horizon now. I could tell you, I was down inside the ship. I wasn't even close to the tower. I was in the engine room, right? No idea what's going on outside. So, with that being said, pushed the company to transition to SharePoint. Let's migrate everything. And if you've gotten into the weeds on how Autodesk file structures work, it doesn't talk real well with SharePoint. Maybe plugins or things have changed since, but 2 years ago, I can assure you there was a lot of glitches with how, and so that's our heartbeat, right? We can't be having employees struggling just to do their job, right? To even get to the point to do their job. So I'm sitting here and I'm pushing this and it's thick. Like the storm's here. Lightning is striking. The team, I cannot thank them enough. They were so positive through the whole process of how disastrous that migration went. And finally, I realized I need bigger and high level expertise to come and assess the situation. And we found a new solution. We transitioned to that new solution. It's been humming beautifully. We are fully scalable on the technology side, no disruption to workflow. Like that was one of the most notable mistakes I think personally that I've made at Meade Engineering because again, I wasn't up in the tower, right? I was doing work and trying to be in the engine room, cranking on the thing.
Yeah, and it sounds like you were also invested in the particular solution, not the solution of we need to migrate, but we need to migrate to this particular tool. And it sounds like that was part of it as well. And listen, man, I really appreciate you talking about a mistake that you made. Many people come on podcasts or they come on platforms and they don't want to talk about their mistakes. And so I really appreciate you taking the time and being honest and sharing that.
Oh yeah. I was like, how much time you got? I guess it's just that list is long, my friend. Uh, but yeah, no, thank you. So it's so important to acknowledge those things. It's like, what are you going to do? Try to sweep that under the rug and not share that? I mean, I tell that to my team. I tell everybody. It's like, don't do what I just did. I tell it to friends and peers who are also running companies. Like, especially if they're newer in their roles, like, hey, like your instinct is going to be, you're probably a doer. You're probably going to want to roll up your sleeves and get in there and feel like you can solve the world's problems. chances are you can't.
With the rapid growth that you've had at Meade Engineering, what has been some of your biggest challenges associated with that growth?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question. So I think a little bit of playing catch up, right? The work piles in and then you clean up the mess after. I think growth naturally creates a bit of laziness. That's a little harsh because we're not lazy people. We're not talking about the team, but I think you just get a little inefficient. I think you're more inclined to produce waste. I think you're more inclined to not focus on optimization of your organization, right? And really making sure that your resources are fully utilized to make sure that you're honing in on the right things because everything's happening, right? Yeah. Oh, my team just went from 5 to 10. It's like, and then 3 months go by and you're like, I've barely talked to them.
Yeah.
What are they doing? Right? Like, are they getting what they need? And to avoid, as you're growing, things like attrition, to avoid underutilization, I think that's probably one of the most challenging things. And just naturally, I think as humans, like, that's just what you do, right? Like, you're like, oh, well, the next thing's coming and let's focus on that. So right now, big focus at Meat Engineering is the optimization and structuring more formally for that next stage of growth. Because what got us here, fine, we did it pretty scrappy, right? And we got you. It's all good. But to get to the next level, there's a different emphasis on sophistication that we need to take towards business and processes and optimization so that you don't get caught off guard.
So that leads me naturally to the next question is what is that next level for you guys?
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's definitely gonna be a break point of some sort that I felt like similar to like around 40 employees, 40 to 50. I really felt it was I had been told this before by other entrepreneurs, like, "You're gonna hit 50 employees, and you're gonna go, what just happened? How do I have all these new problems?" And I can attest, I would share the same thing. It's like, it seems like it's just a turning point in a business right at that. There's some new laws and stuff too around, like, human resources that come into play. It's just like a bunch of things, right? You can't have 20 people reporting to just you, right? So you gotta kind of force yourself into a leadership structure. All this just kind of converges at once. So we've gone through that stage, which has been nice. But the next one, I think you march towards, like, let's say like 150 employees, like 3 times the size here, back to that optimization, right? And resourcing. Like, if that's not dialed, you don't want to be running a sloppy, and yet we're not sloppy, but we don't want to be running a 150 person organization where you don't have the visibility from the top, the leadership level, all the way down into the organization, right? It'd be impossible to know truly what's happening, right? In all functions.
And I think the way I would frame that, you don't want to run 150 employee organization the exact same way you ran a 50 employee or sub 50 because you can't. There are different structures and processes that you need to have in place. And as you said, you need to create those systems to provide you that visibility so that you can see what's going on throughout your organization, whether you're using a combination of dashboards or other tools, you are having things that you're using to help you manage what's going on in your organization as it is growing, it's living, moving, and just continuing to exist.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think I said a couple months ago, probably, like, the real race started, right? You know what I mean? It's like, okay, we were able to really ride a phenomenal wave of growth to kind of put us in this position now to get from double A to triple A. You know, is a good way to put it. And now it's like, okay, we're playing triple A. Now we need to take it to the next level of professionalism to get into the majors. And that's the path that we're on, right? I view, like, meat engineering there's nothing in the way of us becoming a market leader in this space. And that's the path that we're on. And that's the vision and strategy for the entire organization and leadership team.
So, what is the end goal? Let's say this is within your 10-year vision for the company.
Yeah, I think in 10 years, I think we are going to be definitely in a market leadership position. You know, And that's probably conservative, right? I think 10 years is a good goal to put out there for that. And I think we're well on our way. And I just think we have a special group here that has proven to me time and time again that they can basically fight through anything. And we're going to march on. Fortunately for me, I've got a lot of years to retire. Like, I'm not like, this is what I have, right? There's not anything more besides my family and health that's most important to me right now in my life. This is it. So, and I've got my family legacy behind me that's motivating. It's like, yeah, like I'm getting on the Autobahn and we're going to make this happen.
No, no, that is phenomenal, man. So if some of your employees, they're listening to this podcast, what's the message you want to provide to them?
Well, how proud I am of all of them, but genuinely, and how fortunate I feel to have found such a solid group of people around me that I believe in, that I'm learning from, that I genuinely care about and want to see succeed. It's so cool to watch them grow and develop in sometimes in short order, right? Because the job requires it. Ability to step up of this meat engineering team, it's the best team that I've ever been a part of, hands down. And I cannot wait to see what we do in the next 1, 2, 5, 10 years.
That phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Do you have any other insights or things that you would like to share with our audience?
I'm growing more and more passion around the next generation and maybe a message to some of the younger listeners that you have, like who are thinking about the next steps in their career and what they want to do. I obviously want to promote this industry. I think there's huge opportunity here. I think it's kind of been in the dark for the last several decades, right? On, well, what's a design engineer and things like that, because computer science and chip engineers have sucked up so much of the talent. But I think the satisfaction that comes from building things, right, and being a part of that tangible process can be really, really satisfying. So I want them to hear that. And also to remain optimistic, remain motivated, challenge yourself. Don't always just go for the shiny object. Think about that long term and, take those building blocks as opportunities, right, to set yourself up for what you really want in life, whether it is to run your own company, whether it is to be an executive leader, whether it is to be a phenomenal engineer who's renowned in their personal craft. I want this younger generation to see that and to pursue it with that leadership that I know they have.
I think those are all excellent points. And to kind of circle back to what you started with is if you see that your path requires you to do something quote unquote beneath your station in a sense, in terms of taking a call center type job, because that's going to give you the tools that you need to succeed, then that is what you do. That's what you do. So I didn't think about this until we were talking to this point. I can remember as a young engineer, so I finished with my PhD in civil infrastructure systems from Virginia Tech. I didn't want to go into academia. I wanted to go into the field. So I worked for a private highway operations and maintenance contractor. And the first job that I said that I wanted to do is I wanted to go work with the field crews. And so people are like, wait a minute, you have a PhD, you're out here digging ditches or, clearing ditches, making sure that the pipes are unobstructed. You're setting up lane closures so that you can replace the raised pavement markers. You're out here managing snow and ice. Like, why would you spend all of that time in school to come do that? And again, I didn't make the connection until as we're just talking. It was because my vision was to manage and lead those types of individuals that were in the industry. And what better way to do that than to have an understanding of what they had to go through on their day-to-day basis? I didn't think it was beneath me and my education to do that because I always had the bigger picture in mind.
Spot on, James. And yeah, after talking to you, that just makes so much sense, right? That you went through that. And it made me think about my dad as well. So he's a 40-year career engineer, top of his class, current class. Like he spent 5 years as an electrician after college in the field. And he did not take that job because I did not think that job was beneath him. He did not think that job was going to make him wealthy. That wasn't even a thought whatsoever. He's like, I just need to learn this. And to this day, the amount of respect he earns from general contractors, electrical contractors, the people that are the stakeholders that rely on the product that he puts out, still to this day, they are so appreciative and respect him so much for his level of knowledge in the way that he applies engineering to our documentation for constructability. I mean, it's one of the biggest, how shall I say it? What's the word for when a business, a sweet sauce, right? Like it's one of the things that we have, right? And it's because of that. And
It's
that has
like your
trickled down.
it's like your special sauce.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it couldn't be more appreciated by those folks. And my dad will joke sometimes. He said he can always tell if an engineer never spent any time in the field,
Yeah.
like just straight up. He could be very direct with that. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, like because of the way that they're producing the designs or the plans, right? They're lacking the level of detail required to articulate those certain things that support constructability, which is ultimately what you're trying to use. So like, yeah, let's get a low RFI. Like we don't want this stuff to come back and drown us because we have all these knowledge gaps about what's real.
Yeah. No, I think that's important, man.
Yeah.
So, Jonathan, I really appreciate you taking the time to share your wisdom and knowledge on the podcast. Now we've reached the place where we're going to switch places. I'm going to make you the interviewer and I'm the interviewee. So, ask me any question that you would like.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, what led you into being passionate about doing these podcasts and this whole series? Like, I would love to know, like, what motivated you to do this?
I would say the motivation is simply to share the knowledge and resources with other engineers or people with a technical background where they can win at work and at home. The brief story for me, again, 2+ decades as a civil engineer, but early in my career, I took the challenge to work at a job that was like 90 miles away, like an hour and a half or 2 hour commute, depending on what's going on. Growing family. So my first child was born. I can remember my wife telling me when I took this job that was far away from home, although it was the next thing on my career ladder, that I did not love her or our unborn child. This is before he was born. She's telling me, "You're taking this job. You don't love us." No, no, no. I love you. I have to provide. This is the next thing that I'm going to do to provide. So I took the job. Son was born. Wife stopped working. Everything's fine, except I don't really see my kid or my wife because I'm always working or on my way back and forth to work. Wife goes back to work. We immediately get pregnant with child number two. Wife has to go on bed rest. So now I'm like, we got one at home. She's on bed rest. I'm still commuting. Something's going to have to change. Child number two is born. He was born at 26 weeks in a day. He was 1 pound, 15 ounces. And I was forced to confront my whole situation, right? Because before then it was career first, not so much the financial, but probably more so positional recognition, things like that. And so I had to ask myself 3 questions. Do you want to win at work? And my answer to that was yes, I did. And I was. Do you want to win at home? Yes, my answer is I wanted to win at home, but was I? And I could not answer that question yes because of the situation that I created with the job choices. And so I had to take some steps to start redefining success, redefining what does success look like for me, unbundling my identity away from the job position that I had and redefining my identity as a husband, father, and engineer. And in that process, I really was able to design and live a life where I was winning at work and at home. And so it's a long roundabout answer to say through my experiences and what I've been able to do for myself, then I started the podcast to be able to help others to do that. I have an executive coaching and leadership development company where, again, I help companies and individuals to do the same. How can help your team design and live a life where you can win at work and at home, because it's important to be able to have success in both places.
That's incredible. That's incredible. Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, that's inspiring. Kind of a follow up on this, Arthur Brooke. He's a neuroscientist and a HBS professor, and he teaches a course on happiness. It's the most oversubscribed course at Harvard Business School, which is really interesting. And he gave a talk to me and some of my like peers, and we all walked away from there really, really inspired and kind of dumbfounded by some of the messaging that he's had. He's got a book and stuff like that. What you're talking about is highly related, right? With the way you stack your priorities and what how you define success and what constitutes happiness. And it was astonishing, like how the data around unhappy retirees who you would think have it all, right? Highly accomplished people, but who still aren't fulfilled, right? And so anyway, you might find that really fascinating material to dig
Okay.
into.
I will check it out.
So other question I have for you. Do I have time for one more?
Yeah, you do. You do.
Okay, awesome. So are you currently practicing engineering, or are you full time on the podcast?
I'm full time on the podcast in
Awesome.
my executive coaching and leadership development company. Left the doing full time engineering a little over 2.5 years ago. So I took the plunge into full time entrepreneurship, and that is, that's where my flag is planted and where my flag is going to stay. At least right now, I don't see any changes in the foreseeable future.
Congratulations on that. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, final question I have for you is, since you get to interview a lot of interesting people and get to have a cross-functional view of various insights around business and success, can you name like some of the top consistencies or revelations, however you want to frame it? Like, what do you see across all these people that you're like, like that is such a interesting commonality on the path towards success?
I think it is the ability to move past no as an answer. And I frame it that way to not say the not take no for an answer, because sometimes no is the answer to what you're trying to solve or where you're trying to go, right? You're trying to go in a particular direction. A roadblock comes up and that road is closed. When you take no for an answer, you don't move anymore and you might do something else. When you have the ability to move past no as an answer, then you begin to rethink, what's the approach that I need to take to achieve this overall objective? And the people that are the companies, the leaders that are really growing have the ability to move past them.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, I love that. I love that. Good for something for me to take away too. Well, that's all I have for you, James. Just a couple. I appreciate you sharing.
Thank you. And so, Jonathan, again, I'm going to thank you, and I'm going to end this podcast episode like I end every podcast episode as this. Many people know what to do. Fewer people know how to do it. And there is a select group of people that follow through, do it, and they're living the life of their dreams. Johnathan Meade, I want to thank you for being part of that select few.
Thank you, James. I really appreciate the time. It was wonderful to meet you.
Same